Well, if you're one among the millions in the developer community, then you must have already known about the concept of version control. It is a very powerful tool or system that just simply helps you take care of your work. It allows you to move things around, move documents around, and collect all other information that might be related to your project much more quickly. Now, there are many different tools that are used for version control. Both are proprietary and some are open source. Now, Git is just one of these popular and more widely used version control systems in the world today. And a huge number of projects rely on Git for version control because Git is simply free and it's an open source system that is used to track changes in source code during the software development lifecycle. So in today's video, we're going to be learning about Git, and we're going to be learning about some of its popular commands and why it's very important. If you've not subscribed to this channel, let me encourage you today to go on and subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you press the like button and make sure you comment in the comment section if there's anything that you might need clarity on. My name is Skutla. Welcome to Coding 101. So let's get into our video today. We're going to be just learning about GitHub and we're going to be learning about Git. So let's just get straight into it. I don't want this video to be long. The first thing that you need to do is to navigate to your CMD and navigate to a project that you probably play around with a lot. I have my directory over here. If you don't know, I do have a mentorship program. If you are not a developer or you want to be a developer or you are interested in being a developer, I can help mentor you from beginning to advanced or to professional and all that kind of stuff. Hit me up. My information is in the description box if you're interested in something like that. I can mentor you from stage 1 up to stage advanced. If you are interested in that, once again, make sure that you hit me up. My information is in the description box. But without wasting much of your time, let's get into our video. So what you're going to do in this directory, we're just going to simply create a new folder. And I'm going to call this Git. So I'm going to call this folder Git. But actually, before we do that, I forgot one important thing. You actually need to download Git. And what Git is, for many of you who don't know, because many of you might not know the difference between GitHub and Git. Essentially, Git is a version control system that lets you manage and track or keep track of your source code and its history. And GitHub, on the other hand, is a cloud-based hosting service that lets you manage those Git repositories. So you create a repository in your local computer, and then once you're done making changes and whatever, you upload those changes or you upload that repository into GitHub. So GitHub is a cloud-based hosting service that lets you manage those repositories in the cloud. So that's how Git and GitHub are related. So before we begin with this project, you might want to head on to git-scm.com/downloads and download Git so that you can use it. It is a very popular version control system that I would recommend to anybody. Of course, there are lots of version control systems out there in the market, but I would highly recommend that you use Git. So go on to git-scm.com/downloads and make sure that you download Git. And once you're downloading Git, it's a simple installation. Just follow the instruction on how to install a program, and then you're done. And then once you're done installing Git into your system, just go to your CMD, go to your file, locate your file with CMD. What we've done here is that we've already went to our directory, and we've created a file that is named Git. I'm going to cd into that file. And what we're going to do is that we're going to create a simple node project into that, because what Git does is just keep track of your source code. So we need to put some source code into that. In order to do that, I'm just going to create a node project. I'm going to say node init --yes so that we can say yes to everything. And I'm going to give it some time. Oh, there we go. As easy as that. So now we've created a project. We're calling it Git. So in order to access that project with Visual Code, of course, we can just say code dot, and we're able to open up our project using Git. So this is just a simple project, and we're just going to create a file in here, and we're going to say app.js. We're not going to do anything in the file. It's just a way for us to create like directory so that you can see. So so that you can see how Git essentially works. So this is our file, and this is our file structure. Nothing too complicated. Now let's go back to our directory. What we can simply do is that first of all, we need to clear this. What we can simply do, the first instruction actually that I'm going to teach you is git init. We need to initialize our our file as a GitHub file. So in order to do that, we just simply say git. We come over here to the directory and we just say git init. And all of a sudden, our file becomes a GitHub, or our folder becomes a GitHub repository. It becomes a Git repository. Let me say that rather. So, and like that. So in this case, you can also do a clone. So a clone is whereby you take your repository that is already existing in GitHub and you map that repository in your local computer. And so you can just simply go to GitHub and find whatever repository that you're interested in. Let's just find a simple Git repository. Let's say Git. Okay, there's a repository for me. Let's see if I have any public repositories that I have. There we go. This is my CV maker application. So I can just simply come over here and just copy this link over here. And I can simply go back to my directory and just say git clone and put that in there. And if I press enter, then that repository is going to be put into my computer, into my local computer, and I can interact with it. So that's the importance of GitHub. You can just simply take a project that somebody has made and just put it into your computer. So cloning just simply retrieves an entire repository from its hosted location by URL and puts that project into your computer. So if you want to clone, instead of initializing your own empty repository, you can do that as well. So we're going to move on to another command that is known as git status. And what git status simply does is that it shows the modified files that you're working on in your directory, and it shows some of the things that are staged for your commit. I'm going to just show, and I'm going to explain to you what commit is in a moment, but you can just come over here and just say git status. And what it simply does is, you can see over here, it's telling you the types of files that are awaiting for you to commit, or the types of files that are being staged to be committed, or the types of files that have been modified. And it's also telling you that these files have been untracked, because in order for you to actually track these files, or to be able to add a file to your commit, the first thing that you need to do is you need to stage that file for committing. So in order to stage that file, the first thing that you need to do is to acknowledge that file. In order to acknowledge that file, you just simply say git add. You can specify the file and say git add fts, or you can just simply put a dot over there, and what essentially means is that you are adding all of the files. So if you can choose to add one file, you can choose to add all files. And this is the difference right here. You either put a dot or you put the specific file as such. So I'm going to just put a dot just to signal to Git that I want to add all of the files. And just like that. And that's good. And in order to the next stage of putting our files, of course, the next command that I'm going to teach you is the git commit. Once you're done adding your files, you need to stage them, or you need to commit them, because remember, by doing git add, you're actually staging those files for committing. So we can come back to our git status, and you can see that our files have now changed, and now they are being staged for committing. So we've added those files and we're staging them for committing. And then after we commit, we do something that is called pushing. And so a lot of people seem to be very confused about the difference between committing and pushing. And I'm going to explain to you the difference between, or the functionality of git and commit. So in order to understand, we need to understand what is a commit. And a commit simply, let's just consider it this way, right? Git considers its data more like snapshots, like a mini file system, or versions of a project. Versions of a project are called commits. So versions of a problem at a particular time is called a commit. So let's say, for example, if we create this project and there was a time where we just created a variable, and the variable is going to be called name, and we call it coding 101. So our project was once at a stage where we had a variable called name, and then we commit this, and then after that we can choose to name this variable a different name, and we can just say channel. So now there are two different versions of our project. There was a time whereby we had a variable called name, and there was a time whereby we had a variable named as channel. So these are two different snapshots of the same project. So these snapshots are actually called commits. So when you're committing a project, you are saving that snapshot at that particular time. So that's why we call it a commit. So every time you commit, you save the state of your project at a particular time. So it basically takes a snapshot of what your file looks like at the moment and store them in order to reference that particular. Now, in order to understand push, each developer has their own private repositories to track their changes in GitHub. So you make your changes locally, and when you're ready to share them with other developers, you simply push those changes to a repository. So commit saves the changes you've made only to the local repository, but not to the remote repository, which is in the cloud, which is GitHub. So your commits are not automatically synchronized to the remote repository. You have to explicitly tell Git to commit all the changes or to push all the changes that you made in your local repository to the cloud. So that is the difference between committing and pushing. And right now, what we're going to do is that we're going to commit our project over here, and we're just going to simply say commit, and we're going to say -m to illustrate that we're going to put a message in order to explain what that commit is all about. So maybe we can say something like, this is our first commit. Let's just say this is it's just like a short message to just like sort of illustrate to you how what this commit or what this snapshot is all about. So just like that, we've managed to create our very first commit. And now the other important aspect of this is, of course, pushing to GitHub. But we cannot push our project to GitHub without first creating a cloud repository in GitHub, because that wouldn't be the way it works. So what we need to first do is that we need to log in to our GitHub repository. So I'm going to just sign in. And once I sign in, I'm going to come over here to this plus. I'm going to say new repository. And I'm going to call this repository coding 101 Git. Or maybe I can just call it Git. All right, that's good. And then once we're done, we can choose to add a .ignore file. So a .ignore file simply states or is where you list your files that you don't want to be shown in your GitHub repository. So you just tell Git, like, you know what, I have these files that I consider them to be secret. So I don't want you to commit these files to my GitHub repository. So I want you to keep this. Let's say, for example, you have passwords that you're using in a project. So your git ignore file, .git ignore file, simply instructs Git not to push some of the files that you consider to be private and you don't want them to appear in your repository in GitHub. So you can choose to do that, but we're not going to do that here. We're just going to come over here to create repository. And the moment you create repository, GitHub is going to instruct you on what to do. You can see that we've already initialized our project as a Git project, and we've already added Git edit, and we've already committed. We can choose to branch, and I'm going to explain to you what branching is in a moment. And then after that, this is where we connect our local repository to our cloud repository. So using this method over here. So we can just copy this method and we can go back to our command line and we can just copy it here. And you can see just as simple as that, we've now connected our local project to our project, and now we can just simply say git push, and instead of main, what we're going to do is that we're going to say master, and it's going to automatically push all of the changes that we have into our Git repository, GitHub repository, sorry. And if we refresh this page, you can see that we have successfully pushed our project to GitHub. You can see our project over here, and you can see that we have one commit. That's one snapshot of that project at that particular time. So in Git, there's also something that is known as branching. So in GitHub or in Git, branching is simply, let's say, for example, you're creating your project, right? And as you're creating your project, you discover that there is some huge feature that you want to add to your project, but you're too afraid that the feature that you're going to add is going to complicate your development process, or it's going to create some errors or some bugs into your project. So you're not really sure about this feature. So you want to make sure that you want to have a space to create this feature and finish it. And then once you finish it and you've checked that it will not complicate your project, then you can add it back into your main line of development. So what Git does, it allows you to create a separate branch from the same project. It allows you to create a separate branch whereby you can create a new feature or fix a bug, no matter how big or small it is. You create a new branch that encapsulates all those changes. And once you're done creating, that feature, or once you're done fixing that bug or that error, Git gives you the ability to merge that hard code into the main code base, and it gives you the chance to clean up your features history before merging it into the main branch. So in coding or in software development, we have those times whereby we want to create a new feature, or we want to solve a particular problem, but we're not really sure whether or not it's going to affect the big picture or the big project in general. So we just want to have a bit of time to work on that feature before we can merge it into the main project. So that is why branching is very important when it comes to Git or GitHub. It just allows you to work on that project or work on that feature before you can merge it into your main file. So we're going to come over here. In order to check how many branches we might have, we can just come here and we can say Git branch, and it's going to show you the branch that are available. And the current branch, or the branch that we have available right now, is the master branch. But we can change that. We just simply say, by adding another branch, we say Git checkout, and we say -b, and we can create another branch. We can call it main, or we can just call it main. And just like that, we've created another branch and we've switched off to that branch. And if now we say Git branch, you can see that now there are two branches, but the asterisk shows you that the current branch that we're working on is called main. And so we can also just simply switch back to the branch that we were working on previously by just saying Git checkout master, and it's going to simply switch back to the branch that we had previously, which I want to believe that master is actually our main branch. So this is a bit of a mistake. I think I should have named the other branch a different name so that you can see which one is the main branch and which one is the new branch. So that's it about branching. It's not really that difficult. And if you ever want to merge that branch, let's switch back to main again, so that we can just like do a bit of something. So now we come over here and we make another variable. We can call it coding, and we can just say 101, something like that. And we can just say console.log. So you've noticed that we've just added new pieces of code. We can just say this is fun. All right, cool. So we've just added new pieces of code to that other branch called main. So in order to merge that code to the other branch, which is the main branch, the master branch, we can just simply say, we can just simply come over here and we can say git merge master checked out, or we can just simply check out to the master branch in order to check if the changes that we've made to the main branch are existing in the master branch. Okay, so I'm already in the master branch, so I can just simply open up my VS Code in this branch and wait for it to load. And you'll notice that the changes that we've made to the main branch are now existing in the master branch. So that is it about branching, and not too complicated. So I feel like that is about it for some of the things that you need to know about GitHub. I'm going to make another tutorial. Oh, wait. The most important thing that I think many developers need to know is Git stash. So a stash is simply a temporary commit. So let's say maybe we make a change in our project. Let's say we create a function in here, and we simply say return hello. And we don't yet want to save this change. We want to put it aside. We can just simply say git stash in order to take this change and just put it aside. We don't want to commit it. We don't want to do anything to it. We just want to put it aside so that we can work on the existing project. So what it's going to do is that it's just going to take every change that we've made to this project, and it's going to put those changes aside so that we can work on whatever we want to work on. So if you have been following on in this tutorial, you will notice that ever since we haven't pushed any of the things that we were doing on that app.js file, you'll notice that we haven't pushed any of those things that we've been working on the app.js file. So essentially, that means by reason of git stash, that means whatever we've made is going to be completely wiped out, as you can see in this project, and it's going to be wiped out, and it's going to allow us to work on this bare project. So whatever changes that you've made, once you say git stash, it's just simply going to take all those changes, and then it's going to put them in a temporary file so that you can get them back if maybe you would want to. So in order to get a list of the things that we've stashed, we can just simply say git stash list, and we can see we have only one item that we've put in the temporary commit, in our temporary commit file. So that is that. And if we ever want to replace or put back our code that we've put in the stash, we can just simply say git stash push. Now, in order to retrieve some of the items that we pushed in that stash, so let's do git stash again, this git stash list, so we can see the items that we put in our temporary commits. So in order to retrieve those items, we would just simply say git stash apply, and we would name that stash. So it's going to be F4D6714. Okay, so it's not a stash line, so I think we didn't name it correctly. Or we can just say git stash apply everything. Apply, and yeah, that's what it needed to do. So we just simply say git stash apply, and whatever we have in our stash list is going to be taken and applied it to our current project. And if we go back to our project, you will notice that those items or that code that we had in our stash has now been returned to our file or to our VS Code, so, as you can see. So the next thing that we of course need to do is we need to commit these changes, but before we commit them, we need to stage them for commit by saying git add, and we need to say git commit, and we can call the commit second commit. And then once we're done, we just simply say git push, and it pushes those changes into our repository in GitHub. So that is about it from me today. I don't want to go too much into the complicated methods. I just want you to pick up on the most important stuff regarding Git and regarding GitHub. And I'll probably do a more advanced version of this tutorial and teach you some of the advanced methods in Git. And probably teach you a little bit more about GitHub as well, because there's a lot to learn about GitHub, especially when it comes to collaboration. But that'll be something that I'll do in another video. But please make sure that you subscribe to this channel. I have plenty of videos where I'm covering different things, especially my project videos. Please go check out those videos. I have a calculator application. I have a video where I'm doing a calculator app, a video where I'm doing a to-do list. So please go check out those videos and learn more about programming. Our main objective is just to simply make you a better programmer, one video at a time. So please make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you like this video. If you haven't done any of those two, please make sure that you do those things. And if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section. But otherwise, I will see you next time on Coding 101.